A quiet and serene scene here at Christie Pitts Park, but quite the different situation this past Saturday when thousands of protesters were marching in support of Regis Korchinski-Paquet, chanting loudly, "Justice for Regis," sparking a conversation activist groups say sounds like a broken record.
I don't want my 4-year-old son having to be fighting the same fight.
The board chair of Urban Alliance on Race Relations, Nigel Barif, voicing what members of the Black community have been saying for decades. The injustice brought to the forefront once more after 29-year-old Regis fell last Tuesday from the 24th floor balcony of a High Park area apartment while police were in the unit. Toronto's protest coming on the heels of massive unrest across the U.S. this past week after George Floyd died in police custody in Minnesota.
It's decades of mistrust between the Black community and the police. That this feels like a broken record that continues to happen over and over again. That we are terrified that our children will leave our homes and go out, and that instead of being protected, the police are supposed to serve and protect us, that our children are disproportionately dying at the hands of the police.
The Andrew Loku case at the top of mind for many Black activists. A coroner's inquest was completed back in 2017 into the police shooting of Loku, a Black man with mental health issues. No criminal charges were laid against the officers.
Think about what happens in the Black community when there's a shooting and there's a death. The chief comes onto the podium and he says to us in the community that we're the ones that's supposed to speak up and say what happens. Well, here's the police officer's opportunity. They need to speak up and say what happened in that room. What happened in that room?
Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders tweeted this a day after the protest. "Thank you for a peaceful and safe Justice for Regis protest yesterday. You spoke loudly and I heard you. Toronto honored Regis's family's request to be peaceful. We need the facts and an expedited and thorough SIU investigation so we can move forward together." Mayor John Tory adding today, more needs to be done.
Continued sensitivity training on the part of our police service to make sure that they are as equipped as they possibly can be to deal with what are very complex challenges of policing in the most diverse city in the world. But they are special challenges, and they're ones we simply have to take on in light of the fact that there is still racism that occurs in this city in a number of different quarters that our police officers have to be sensitive to.
SIU investigators say they have interviewed the subject officer, all 5 witness officers, as well as other witnesses. They also say they have video footage of Regis's apartment building, which is currently being reviewed. Barif says there is so much more which needs to be done.
It's up to the city council, the mayor, and our city councilors to hold the Toronto Police Services accountable. They're the ones that fund the Toronto Police Services. We spend $1 billion on the police services. They have anti-Black racism policies that must be followed by the police services. That's who we need to have held accountable and make sure that these things do not happen any longer.
Urban Alliance on Race Relations is calling for a public inquiry as they feel that an SIU investigation is simply not enough. They say the only way to get to the bottom of what happened is by doing a public inquiry. Maleeha Sheikh, City News, Christie Pitts Park.